Hello and welcome into this edition of the Wildcat Weekly Coaches Report here with Coach Joseph Smith in the Linfield locker room. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
You're welcome.
So looking at last weekend, Linfield goes up to Puyallup and gets a big victory going up against the Pacific Lutheran Lutes. Final score of that one's 42-10. They put up a little bit more of a stiffer competition, particularly in the first half, and then Linfield kind of pulled away in the second half. What are your thoughts on the win?
No, I think anytime you can go up to Sparks Stadium, obviously we've played up there since 1989. I've been going up there, so played them every year up there, except I guess 2 years at the Tacoma Dome. So I love playing PLU. It's certainly our traditional rival from when I was playing, but same time it's different now in terms of our different colors, different uniforms, different program. But I'm real pleased with how we played. I wanted our guys to get tested a little bit. It's been a while since we've been tested, so to speak, and the first half was a little bit frustrating for our offense, just the way things played out. We didn't have the ball very much and had some strange circumstances that kind of killed some drives. But I really liked how we responded in the second half, and I thought the third quarter in particular was a tremendous quarter for us, and we showed tremendous explosion there, and I really like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, the Cats, particularly in that third quarter, they scored 21 points, and they were kind of bang right there at the beginning of the quarter. Artie Johnson had a touchdown as well as a couple other plays. When you look at it, too, in that game, the Linfield defense does a great job of holding PLU off the board. They scored 7 points there at the end of the game when kind of second units were in and things of that nature. But when you look at the secondary in particular, Dustin Ramsayer-Burdett has a massive 96-yard interception return for a touchdown. A lot of that created by some fantastic pressure up front. Chris Adamo has an interception. Tyler Bergeron has an interception. And Tyler Sitton has 2 pass breakups that puts him right there in the top 3 in the conference in that category. When you look at your secondary and your defense as a whole, does it give you a lot of confidence going up against other teams, not only their passing offense, but just offense in general?
No, it does. The improvement of our secondary has just really been fun to see. And we came into the season being a little concerned about our corners, replacing both of our corners there, and obviously having to fill the loss of Duke Mackel. And so I think Dustin is really developing every game, and he's got so much potential. He's just fun to watch play. He plays with great passion and tremendous smile, but he doesn't always play with a smile on his face, I think, in terms of the way he hits. But I'm really impressed with the poise that I'm seeing from Adamo and of course Tyler in terms of making plays on the football. It looks easy, but it's quite hard to do, speaking from someone that's done that in the past. And as those guys go, our defense typically will go. Making plays on those long balls down the sideline, there's no help in offenses. And honestly, playoff games are won or lost on those deep passes every year. So I'm really happy with what I'm seeing from that back group.
It's really impressive to see, too, because you talked about the big hitting of Dustin Ramsayer-Burdett and then also Tyler Bergeron. There were times where teams would try to go deep and then they lay a big hit, and so no one wants to go in that direction anymore. So that's very impressive to see. Also, it's important to mention, too, then the depth there. I mean, you can bring Colby Tamayo in. We've seen him start in games, and he's been impressive. So that group's looked great. Now swinging over to the offensive side of the ball, a little bit lower scoring game than what we've seen the last couple, but the Linfield offense looked more balanced than we've seen in weeks. And that's, not a slight towards the running game or anything like that, but Artie Johnson has a great game. He goes over 80 yards for the first time. He has 2 touchdowns in that game, so he was really impressive. How does it make you feel knowing that, you can pass with these teams and attack them through the air, but that running game is really starting to come around?
It is, and I think offensive football, at least here, is going to be one that we need to be able to try to take advantage of what a defense gives us. And some defenses are set towards they're trying to take away the run, and okay, then you're going to pass more. And I think that's what you saw, the previous 2 weeks in some fashion. Although the Willamette game was just, maybe it could do whatever. But so I think PLU was certainly much more conservative in terms of a defense of, trying to make you run the ball. They weren't just going to let you have deep passes at will. So I think that's a little bit of that, but I was pleased with how we ran the football. I liked the way that PLU played in terms of a very physical, scrappy style. So it was a pretty physical game, much more physical than the prior 2 weeks. And we needed that. So a good test for our guys up front, and they're getting better literally every day, and we got to keep doing that. We're not where we need to be, but we're getting closer.
It's pretty noticeable, too. I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to PLU. They were dealing with a lot of injuries and things like that, and a very young group, but like you said, very scrappy, very impressive. Also noticeable to mention is the Linfield receivers. So you have 3 receivers go over 60 yards, Tyler Torgerson, Colton Smith, as well as Keegan Weiss. And then the one receiver that didn't was Keaton Wood, and he had 2 touchdowns. We really got to see him kind of stretch the field, and we talked about it already a couple times. With those receivers, they can do so many different things. You can't just lock into one thing. I think a lot of people coming in just thought Keaton Wood would just be a deep threat. That's the only thing he's going to do. He's obviously changed it up. Tyler Torgerson can not only do things close to the line of scrimmage, but also down the field. So it really kind of opens the playbook up for you guys, right? Knowing that all these different receivers can do so many things in the passing game.
I think that's a very fair statement and an astute one. The experience that those 3 seniors have in particular has really been fun to see. The knowledge of how to break defensive backs down and how to adjust to coverages, how to see coverages. That's like any skill you're trying to do. There's a nuance to it and an experiential factor, and I really like how they're playing. They're playing really well, and Colton's literally getting better again every practice and understanding the offense more, and we have a very good group.
So now looking ahead to Lewis and Clark, they'll come here to McMinnville this weekend. Middle of the road team right there at 2-2. They're kind of that second tier behind a couple other teams that have either one loss or Linfield right now with no losses in the conference. The player to watch for Lewis and Clark is Michael Abraham, their starting running back. He's been very impressive, top 5 rusher in the conference. What are your keys going into that game, going up against a stingy Pios team?
Well, I think, every week it's going to be controlling the running game on defense, and I think he is a very good running back. I've thought he's one of the better ones in the league, and very powerful. Does a nice job, runs hard. So I think he's a very stiff test, and they have some very fine receivers. So limiting the big plays, so all that nice talk about our DBs, we'll see, how they do, because they'll get tested probably more this week than they have the last couple in terms of the quality of players they're guarding. So I think that's a key, is just how our defense does, limiting the big play potential by their receivers and then controlling the running game. And I would expect our defense to do well. They're getting better again, each week, and that front 7 is getting stronger and more experienced. And again, we've got a ways to go, but they have a lot of pride too. So.
And just to wrap things up, we saw a little bit of a shift in the conference this weekend. Whitworth losing to Puget Sound. Whitworth without their starting quarterback, Leif Erickson, but still a very capable backup. When you look at things now, that kind of moves Linfield right there into the driver's seat to take advantage in the conference, the only undefeated team in conference play. How do you make sure you guys stay focused on this matchup this weekend against Lewis and Clark and the rest of the season, and don't get kind of caught up in what the rest of the conference is doing?
Our guys literally don't care what the rest of the conference is doing ever. So they can do what they want to do and play how they want to play. But we've always been in the driver's seat here, and we'll continue to be. And as long as we focus on what we can control and take care of business on Saturday, but really it's more than that. We're trying to get better. We're not just trying to take care of business and avoid this or that. We're not playing not to lose. We're trying to get better, and people need to understand just how good that those elite teams in the country are. It's a different level of football, and if we don't get better, bigger, stronger, faster, more pure in our techniques, then you're not going to fare well when you play one of those teams. So we've been there, we've seen that, we know what we got to do, and we'll be doing that.
So Linfield, one of the hottest teams in the country, looking for their 5th straight. This Saturday, they'll take on Lewis and Clark. That game will be at 1:30. We'll have the coverage for you on the Linfield Sports Network at 1 o'clock. Make sure you come out to the Cat Dome. It's going to be rocking, and if not, make sure you tune in. But, Coach, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck this weekend.
You're welcome.